Welcome to another episode of Question It, where a question is posed and we share our perspectives. I'm Kevin Strauss, the host of Question It and founder of Uchi, a simple, private social app built on one belief, that everything feels possible when you know someone has your back every day. Today's guest is Eileen Bild. I've known Eileen now for many years, grateful to call her my friend, and happy she's decided to join us on Question It for another random life question. So Eileen, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Kevin. Let's see. I'm Eileen Bild. I'm CEO of Ordinary to Extraordinary Life. I'm a breakthrough spark coach. I'm a writer, a published author, internationally syndicated columnist, and my husband and I have Roku channels, and so I'm just enjoying life with the things that I love to do. So I'm happy to be here, and I also call you my friend.
Thank you for that. Yeah, you dip your hands into a lot of different things.
I do. I
Yeah,
do, but that's part of my personality.
yeah.
I get bored with just one thing, so I go here, I go there, but I keep up with it all somehow.
Yeah, you do keep busy with it all, for sure. Yeah, the spice of life, though, variety, right? The spice of life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Cool. Okay, well, Eileen chose a random number from my list. And so today's question, which Eileen even had to help me understand, and I created these questions. Today's question is, how would you describe yourself when you make a mistake? What is going through your mind? So,
Great
Eileen,
question.
yeah, you have the floor. It's all
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. So I want to preface it because I've learned over the years that um, mistakes are just a part of life. So instead of the way I've approached it in my more later years in life, is mistakes are not something negative. Rather, it's part of a life experience that didn't feel good. And whenever I've had something happened that I can look back on and think about, well, I didn't make the right choice, or I didn't do something in order for that experience to feel good. And then I learned from it. And if I were to say that I've had major life experiences that I feel were life lessons, there's one that comes to mind when you post that question to me, and I'm like, well, I know what I'm going to talk about, which is I was approached to open a health food store, and at the time there was a lot of pressure in different things, different parts of my life, and I agreed to do it. And so the whole experience from that point to where the store had to close because of circumstances, I can look back now and see I probably shouldn't have done it because it was not a good feeling experience from start to finish, and I did not go into it with the right energy and the right feelings and the right purpose for doing that, opening the store. It was an amazing experience outside of that. The vendors loved the store, the customers were great, and they would have succeeded. But again, there were challenges with interpersonal between myself and the other owner, and things just didn't work out. When I look back, I see that it was a major life lesson in listening to that inner child, listening to that inner voice, listening to that part of me that was saying, should I do this? I just didn't quite feel right. But I didn't want to back down because, I don't want to give up. I'm not one to throw in the towel really soon and early. But there were things that were said by people that were associated with the other partner. There were things that were done by the other partner. There were things that I was probably not as ready to be a part of, that was part of the building out of the store itself. And so I use that background that I have with that experience for a lot of my um, things that have happened in my life since then. And I look back on, okay, where did I mess up? Where did I not make the right choice? Where did I not stop and say, no, I'm not going to go on with this. I'm gonna throw in the towel now, so it doesn't become a bigger issue and a bigger problem, which it did, to the point where we had to close the store down. But so, again, mistakes for me are just not being present enough in my confidence and my clarity of the steps I'm taking to achieve a certain outcome. And strengthening that resolve of saying no when I should say no before it even gets going. I've learned to be okay to say no and not feel guilty and not feel any resentment or any kind of entrapment that later on, having not said no, it comes back to bite me. And with the knowledge of going through life with, does this work for me or does it not work for me? Is it going to feel good? Is it not going to feel good? Has helped to be more in the flow and have less life challenges that can be seen as mistakes. Um, when we learn from them, hopefully we won't make that same choice, right? And we don't get challenged. And I'm happy to say that as of today, I feel like my life, is great and things are moving smoothly and in flow. But I also meditate on a regular basis on the things that I want in my life. And back at the time of that store experience, I was not quite as aware as I am now. And so it was an opportunity for me to wake up to that awareness of what's going on in my life and how to manage and how to facilitate making sure that all of my experience are as feel good as they can be. And I was kind of clueless back then, and this was a huge wake up call for me, huge. But I have to look back on it to see that it was a wake up call and not just a bad experience. That sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, but I am better for it because I can look back and see any similarities or patterns that are still going on where I won't make that choice. I won't make the choices again that created the experience that didn't quite feel good, and it was hard. It was really hard, but um, I think there's patterns in life that we have, and those patterns, when we recognize, oh, that's happening again. Why am I not done with that experience? Why does it keep showing up? When I can recognize, well, there's something in me that I still need to grow. I need to become stronger, maybe stronger boundaries. Maybe I need to say no more. I need to listen more, speak less, speak up. There's all the different avenues that I can go down in order for that repeated pattern experience to stop if it doesn't feel good. To me, it's all about, um, uh, for the sake of this conversation, mistakes only happen if we feel like what's happening is not the way we want it to go. And it's creating either discomfort, pain, anger, frustration, what I call the lower level vibration words and feelings and emotions. And when we're in those, we can feel stuck and we can feel very out of touch with what helps keep us in a state of peace and harmony within the self. So a lot of it for me is listening to that inner voice, listening to when the body shifts, if someone is offering for me to be a part of something or an opportunity, you know, right away, if I feel a connection to it, I'll pursue it and move on. If I don't, and I feel a twinge, even just a twinge, I have to back away and think about it. Sit with it, and see what comes to me as far as do I do this or do I not do this. And having that as a daily practice is so it's actually it's a freedom of sort, because it takes away the tension of having to feel like, did I make that right decision? Second guessing. I don't second guess myself anymore. I don't look back as much. I still have a little bit of looking back, but I don't look back as much at, why did I do that? That didn't turn out the way I wanted. It was a horrible experience. I don't have to do that so much anymore. Now it's more, okay, that worked, or I don't think that's going the direction I want. And then before I make a decision on whether or not I'm going to continue with that, um, I'll sit on it. I'll meditate on it. I'll think about it, but not with the head thinking, more with the heart thinking, because the heart has an intelligence in and of itself, and that intelligence, we don't exercise it as much. And I think when we can connect with the heart center, use the brain when it's needed for strategy or next steps, but the heart really, and the gut, can tell us, if this is going to be something that possibly is going to be good for us, or good for me in my case. And so, you know, when I am given an opportunity and the potential for success or not success, I have to step fully into presence and be very conscious and aware of what I'm being asked to participate in, or what direction I want to go in. And the other thing that just came to mind is, how much is the other person or people or group or entity trying to control my decision, right? And so I have to be very cognizant of, is someone steering me with the either passive aggressive, if you don't do this there's something wrong with you, or through the manipulation. And because I am aware of the different personalities that people have, and how they you know can grab you and get you into their web, I can spot that pretty quickly now. And I'm very proud of myself that I can deflect it, and I can say, well, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. Or I'll say, okay, send me information and we'll talk about it. And I take control back of the conversation, whereas someone isn't trying to control me to get what they want. So I think there's a lot that goes around the word mistake. And it's not just, the fact that I did something, it didn't work out, I made a mistake, I should have done XYZ. There's so much more at play. There's a bigger picture that is part of that whole experience. And so I try to, you know, like I said, I meditate every day. So I try to look at what's working in my life, what's not, how does it look, why does it look that way, and then discern, is it me or is it the other person or people or entity? And if it's me, then I have to go into the self development mode and determine, is there a pattern that's repeating itself, or is there, right? I mean, those are patterns are they're some of life's toughest challenges to course correct, or transform. But I think it strengthens, for me, my authenticity, because I'm stepping more as I get older, and I'm in sort of my last chapter of life, the last quarter of my life. Um, what I will and will not accept, and what's important to me, and how the things that come into my life align with that which is important. And that can allow me to be happy, go to bed with peace and calm, wake up in the morning refreshed, and feel like, okay, it's another day. I'm alive. Let's tackle it and let's have fun and enjoy it. And I think having the ability to have that perspective. Mistakes are not just mistakes. It's an experience that didn't work out. What do I do about it so it doesn't happen again? And by refining that um, uh, strategy for myself, it's really helped me to value and appreciate things, to look around and see what I have and say, I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for where I am. All the experiences I've had, all the mistakes, all the successes has brought me to this point right here where we're having this conversation. And I am who I am. And then I look at, well, do I like who I am? Do I like where I am? And I do. I love it. I love where I am because I've manifested the kind of life I like to live, the kind of life that fits me. And I think, that gives me a sense of freedom, a sense of just calmness that I'm, I, I'm in control of my life, even with the things I can't control, because I know how to work with it when something comes in that is out of my control, but I can control the outcome. And I think that that's a blessing when someone can be in that state, and and to not sweat the small stuff because life's short, and there's bigger fish to fry than the small stuff that can really, you know, ruin your day and ruin the week. And I just won't have any of that anymore. My tolerance for things are gotten really small because you know what? It's. I just finished taking care of my dad, and um, it's life is short, like I said, and I want to um, be able to enjoy it till the end. So I think that's my story.
Well, thank you for sharing that. You went really deep, which is so fun. I mean, what a pleasure to get to listen to that. I actually, in during while you were talking, I was like, man, I wish I could interrupt because there's so many like just go back and forth. But I really, I really liked that, and that's the format of the podcast is to not interrupt because I did check the clock and it was like 11 or 12 minutes in, and then you went to another level. And I think that was possible, one, because of who you are, but two, because you were just still going with you and not me interrupting, guiding, steering, and going in some other direction. It was just you still working with your thoughts and feelings, and it took 10 plus minutes to get to that next layer. How often do we ever really get 10 minutes plus to go to another level? So that was fun. Okay, so the first thing that came up to mind was that with the store, were you not listening to your intuition? It sounds like your intuition knew not to get into it, but you weren't able to hear it or listen to it or follow it. Maybe you haven't cultivated that listening part enough yet. You were younger. I don't know how old you were, whatever. But was that part of like your intuition knew that it probably wasn't the right choice?
Oh, absolutely. When I was approached about doing the store, I heard this little voice in my head say,
You did.
she's not ready. Now,
The
back then,
partner or you?
no, no. Well, I'm assuming it was about the partner that she's
Okay.
not ready.
Hmm.
But back then, I was not as understanding or even aware of
The
the
self-awareness.
little voices, the self awareness, the
Hmm.
intuition, the inner child, the inner self. And
Hmm.
so I just was like, okay, that was weird, and I just moved on and went on,
So
and
something like interrupted that flow, but you couldn't quite pinpoint it at that time, so you just kept
yeah,
going
yeah.
forward.
I mean, we could say that. I recall that she asked me several times, so I didn't say yes right away. So there was a part of me that was trying to like, thanks for asking, but I'm just not in the position or whatever.
Hmm.
But there were like I said, multiple things going on in my life at the time that I felt pressured about. She was pressuring me, and I got pressured on another end. So I was like sandwiched in between this pressure, and then it just, you know, finally I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And um, and
Well,
then there
it's hard to
were,
turn down an offer also.
well, it can be with something that could be exciting and new and different. But
Mm.
again, I went into it with the wrong purpose for the wrong reason. So that
Can you
was
share
that
what
was
that
strike number two.
can you
Yeah.
share more about that, or
Oh
do you?
well, yes. I didn't go into it because it was my passion. I went into it because I was being pressured on one end, and then I was being pressured by my partner to do the store with her because she kept asking and asking and
Mm.
asking, and back then I wasn't strong enough to say no. I mean, today if someone approaches me about something and it doesn't feel good, I'll outright say, sorry, that's just not going to work for me, and I have no problem saying that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but back then I was young. I was a little on the naive side, and I just wasn't as developed emotionally
Yeah, you
and
hadn't done as
self
much work at that
development.
point.
I had done no work.
Yeah,
I mean,
there you
I
go.
was I was a mom raising kids, just trying to survive.
Yeah.
But I did it, and I did it, and I look back because I did have an opportunity early on to stop it, to stop the process,
Mm,
and I would not have lost as much as I lost because I
mm,
lost money, I lost time, etc. And so, and I will say, just for the sake of the conversation, that towards the end, in my visual, I was standing in the store, and all of a sudden I get this vision in my in my imagination, but I wasn't trying to, like this angel with the clipboard checking off boxes, and I was like, okay, this is like a major life lesson, and I learned what I needed to learn. So I learned with that, lessons don't have to be two by fours and kicks in the butt. And, we don't have to have life lessons be so hard and so challenging
or so
and,
big, or
and so
so
big,
like,
right? Because I could have learned whatever I did learn by saying no right away. And I would not have had to go through the process of everything that was beyond the no.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, and some of the other things that I'm thinking of when you were sharing, um, about, you didn't use the word, but it kept coming up for me, and it's kind of one of my words recently, is alignment. So what feels right to you, and what's resonating with you, um, what what feels right for you at your core, which heart, gut, yourself.
Mhm.
That came up a lot, and it sounds like that you're much better at identifying what is in alignment with you and going in that direction, and then things do feel right. And if something's not in alignment, you're able to recognize that, and recognize it faster and faster, as you continue your personal growth. um, and then stop it. Be like,
Right.
nope, we're done with that. Like, move
Right.
on.
Yes, yes. And I get
Exactly.
reminded almost daily that I'm on track on my personal
Mm,
path,
that's got to
which
feel good.
also is part of the business path as well. Um, because just that alignment, which I call harmony,
Okay.
is showing up, like I said, almost daily with
Hmm.
just how people are responding to me in person, with the things that I share. Uh, and again, I'm still being asked to be part of writing projects and other projects, which is part of the pattern that I was talking about.
Mm,
And when we recognize those patterns, when we get beyond those huge life lessons, where we have those experiences where we look back and feel we made mistakes, when we get beyond that and we're no longer having those, then it shifts and transforms into uh, opportunities show up without having to pursue it. That
mm-hmm.
is in alignment and in harmony and in vibration and in agreement with the fact that you're not doing all these things that create that negative experience, like attracts like. So the more we focus on something, the more we're going to get back like of.
Mhm.
And I'm not focused on whatever was part of that experience. And so I wasn't creating a repeated pattern. And now my focus is on peace, harmony, serenity,
Mhm.
it could be gypsy, the free flow, the free spirit, and enjoy life. Like life's just too short. Even when we're younger, it's too short
Yeah.
not to find that place, and operate from that place in that state. I'm no longer in
It
fight or
sounds like
flight.
there's just so much more at ease of
Yes,
just day-to-day life.
absolutely. And I'm no longer in that fight or flight. I'm no longer trying to make things work, and the push and the
Forcing,
pulling, the forcing.
controlling.
Right
Mhm.
now, I let things happen, and it kind of rolls into my life, like a
Mm.
fog on a beautiful, morning, and the fog lifts
Well,
and the
and
beautiful
that's I
sunrise.
mean, that's the quantum physics of it all, really,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, if you're vibrating at that frequency and everything is connected in the quantum physics world, it's shown in the math, the math
Right.
proves it. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, the
and
law of
you're
attraction.
right, and you're living it,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, and can you talk a little bit more also about this is like the belief stuff, but those patterns that we so often like repeat, but then we don't stop and question it or decipher it or like, and where is it coming from? Like, can you talk more about that? Because you mentioned that and that like,
Right.
that got my attention
Yeah, I saw
again,
that. You're like, yeah. Well, there's one pattern I'm still experiencing, and it's a interesting one. So years ago, I was asked to be part of a team to build to be a part of a healing center that was going to be built from scratch, and it would have,
that
you know,
sounds really exciting.
oh yeah, it was awesome, and all the people that were part of the board, I guess you could say, we were all very qualified for the positions that we would have been a part of.
Hmm.
But the person leading it was a basket case, and so we put time and energy and effort and planning. We even had someone that did a feng shui rendering, artist rendering of the facility. It was beautiful. I mean, everything was there, but the person leading it was chaotic and just disconnected, and so that fizzled. Well, then I don't know how many years later, another similar opportunity showed up where the person who asked me to be a part of their project was chaotic, and what I've recognized, and so I've had at least four of these things happen. And when the third one showed up, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, this this feels and looks familiar, and so I did a
Mhm.
little bit of meditating on it and thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, this is a pattern in my life where people see value in what I do and who I am, and
Mhm.
the skills that I have, and they want me to be a part of this bigger project that they have,
Mhm.
but they're more of they're not the leadership type. They're more of the promoter type. The one that has the ideas, and they can bring people together, but they can't make it happen. So they bring people together to make it happen. The problem is they don't put into place the right leadership, and so that creates discourse and disharmony and non-alignment. So everybody who's trying to make it work, they're doing their job, but the leader is not doing what they need to do to make it go to the next level.
Yup,
And
I've seen
so
this.
you've seen
Yup.
that, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm. I've
so,
gotten burned many a time
yeah,
because
well,
of that.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
They
So,
see the value that we bring. They're excited. They've got the energy around it, but they can't deliver on it.
no, no. And they don't put someone into place who can,
Yeah. And
that,
it's not because they're not they're not, in my experience, they're not trying to sabotage it or self-sabotage it. They're really genuinely, into all of this. It's just not in their wheelhouse to actually get it over the goal line.
No, and they don't see it. They don't understand it.
No.
And they keep making promises, and they keep,
Oh my God, promise after promise.
I know, right? And somehow they've got an energy for people like us who are givers to keep us part of it.
Well,
like
they see our value
right,
and what we're bringing to the project, and we can deliver on that, and they recognize that, and they want to be a part of that, but they can't do their part.
right. Well,
But they see our value, then we feel valued, and that feels good. So we're inclined to like, oh, I mean, they see what I'm bringing, how I'm contributing. This feels great. Because, in our brain, like value equals love. I feel loved. They see my value, but when it isn't all put together and gotten over the goal line.
right. Yeah. Well, and they do sabotage. I mean, they do eventually do something that makes things not move forward or go back a few steps, and burn bridges.
And it's usually subconscious. Like they're not usually like right. They don't outright trying to destroy it. They're just
right. Yeah. So I got that repeated pattern. I thought I was done with it.
On the third try.
And something just right. So I had another one after that. And so I'm thinking I've had one or two more. And because I was more aware with the last two, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to give it a little time and we'll see where this goes.
Right, but you're much more aware of it now as you're giving it time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I say to myself, this is my pattern. So let me see if I can finally, nip this in the butt and not have to have the pattern, repeat itself again. Well, apparently I haven't done it yet because I have something else that just literally recently showed up out of the blue. So someone, and I don't want to talk about the details, but I'll just say someone asked me if I could do something. And I said, yeah, sure, I could do that. Well, next thing I know, it just went down this rabbit hole of, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and we're going to do that. And I want you to be my partner. And I'm like, whoa, where did that come from?
That's like love bombing.
One thing, yeah.
Right? Like love bombing in relationships, right? Yeah, isn't that like a thing? Yeah.
So the way I'm handling this one is I'm just like thumbs up and comment a little and redirect when needed and
just keep the toe in just a little bit.
and just see and say, okay, what's the lesson in this pattern? Because I'm done. I don't want to be burned, right? Like you said, you've been burned a few times. I don't want to be burned again, and I'd love for something to work out, but not at my expense where I feel like I got to get out.
Yeah. Well, and like you said toward the end of your share is life is so short. I don't have time to get burned or go down some rabbit hole of someone who cannot deliver. If I'm delivering, and it's great they see my value, but they're not delivering their part. So this isn't a fruitful project, in the
Kevin, I lost you.
Oh, okay. I still have you.
You on my end, you gobbled, but hopefully on your end, you're back. Okay. We're back. Yes.
Okay. I don't know where that left off, but yeah, they're not delivering,
No, and I think as you were talking, I believe the common thread through all of it for the other people is operating from a state of fear. And that brings in
fear of what? Though?
Well, success, fear of failure, fear of success.
Okay.
And that, they have this passion for what they want to do, but they question the ability for it to be successful because of either lack of trust or lack of faith, or they've been burned before themselves, and they want to bring these people around them. In my case, me, sometimes with other people, but um, in this particular pattern, there's issues that sabotage and interfere with the alignment,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that it stays in this forever cycle that you
Mhm.
know goes out a little but comes back because it's like a tornado keeps pulling it in, and it
Yeah.
doesn't break free.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
What's coming up for me is these this happens, and the person, I agree, they're operating from fear, fear of success, fear of failure. I think it might even be another layer deeper of they want to be liked and valued so much themselves. They see the value in someone else, they pull them in, but since they're operating from such a state of, well, I have to do this and I have to say this to that person to get them to like me, and I have to say this to that person so they like me, and then I have to promise this to someone else so they like me for this whole project, but they can't actually deliver on it because they're just so preoccupied with being liked and valued and saying what they think people want to hear, that they're never actually true to themselves on what they want and need and value and their own value and what they can, their own abilities. So then
and
it,
not
it
only,
all crumbles.
and then they depend on you to fulfill that.
Yeah, then they depend on you. And I there um I think this episode's coming out in a week or two, um, where the guest of Question It was talking about, yeah, you had, like, their boss was like, yeah, your job as my employee, you got to make me look good all the time, you know, and but the boss couldn't deliver,
Right,
and
right,
then if the boss was getting, if someone was coming down on that boss, then the boss would throw the whole team, my
under the
guess was one of
bus.
the, under the bus, and my guess is
Right,
one of
and
them.
blame the
It's
team.
never the boss's fault, so make me look
Right,
good, and if I look bad, it's your fault,
yeah,
not, and it's a cycle, and it just keeps
yes,
looping, and that
exactly. So
person is usually just continuing to try and survive from one event to the next, and they're never getting out of their own way, they're just survival mode.
so with that said, what came to mind is, so where, because this question was about mistakes, so where is a mistake being made, quote unquote, for the fact that we get into these loops? So what are we not doing, or what's the mistake we're making that these loops, these patterns continue? And that's what I'm trying to figure out with this pattern that has been a part of my adult life, my whole adult professional life. And every time it shows up, I laugh, and I'm just like, seriously, really? Do I need
Again,
to go
again.
through this again?
Yeah, yeah,
So, and I swear, the last time it happened, I thought, okay, I got this, I got it. It's
yeah.
not going to happen again.
I
And
mean,
it's
we
just,
can try to work through that, or we can let it go. But yeah, yeah, I hear it. For me, it comes back to someone sees my value, that feels really good, so I want to get in on that because I'm feeling good,
yes,
and and but then looking past my own, not listening to my own intuition that is saying, you know what, this isn't right, so it's
right.
like my need to feel valued is still overriding my intuition of this isn't right for whatever
Yeah,
reason that might be.
right. And
And
I think you're right about that, because I feel that my body's like, yeah, he's speaking truth, because I can feel my body responding.
oh, right now.
Yeah, when you said that.
Hmm.
And what's coming to mind for me is all of this particular pattern, and I made the mistake of saying yes, not realizing, and I said the word mistake because that's what the question was, not realizing that that uh, the pattern of each one of them, I'm with a group of people. I'm working with a group of people versus by myself. versus achieving whatever I would achieve in this um, experience with a group of people. Instead, maybe I'm being guided to do things independently versus in a group.
Okay, I got lost in there a second. Um, Partially is because something came on in your mirror and it.
I know. I didn't realize that was still on. I just turned it off.
Um, but what I'm getting is there's so much influence from others that's coming in and maybe clouding or clouding your ability to hear and listen to your own
Yes,
intuition.
that's what I'm thinking is probably
Something like that.
most likely
Because I get that a
something.
lot. I mean, the influence of others, I feel a lot. Not
Right.
like they're trying to influence me, but I feel whatever it is they're going through, spoken or not spoken, and I pick up on that, and then I adjust according to that, and then I lose the clarity of my own voice. And
Yes.
again, my voice is this internal intuition voice. Is that
Yeah.
like that?
Well, that's what I'm thinking now.
That
Whether or
part of
not
it.
that's what's happening, I have to like I'd have to sit on that for a little bit.
Yeah, it takes time to unpack.
It does. It does, especially since it's been happening like
It
25, 30
mhm,
years, you know. So,
mhm. Yeah,
no,
the
I
pattern.
yeah, it's definitely a
Yeah,
pattern because I recognize it when it shows up.
yeah. But again, just recognizing the pattern doesn't mean it's solved. That's
No,
where I get frustrated with like therapy a lot, or people who, oh yeah, I know what my problem is. I'm solved. No, just knowing what the problem is doesn't mean you've solved the problem. And it's
right.
usually a lot of what, awareness of the problem. That's great. That's a wonderful start. But in my experience, that's about 5% of the whole thing.
Correct.
So there's so much more to unpack there. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
That's
Wow. We
another
might have to come back
conversation.
to this. We have to like put a pin in that and come back. Um, Wow, this is so fun. I always love our conversations. They're so much fun. But I guess I should probably take my turn
Yes.
um, and try to answer this question. I don't know if I'm going to be going as deep as you went. I wish I could. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to repeat the question. How would you describe yourself when you make a mistake? What is going through your mind? So what came to mind for me, and I wrote down just a couple little notes. So the first thing that goes through my mind if a mistake happens is, oh shit, what did I miss? I must have missed something really big if this mistake just happened. That's what comes through. That's what's going through my mind. Um, and then, and what's the other part of that question was, how do you describe yourself? Well, I become like a problem solver, but how do I describe myself when I make a mistake? I I don't know if I really just think, wow, I must have missed something. I don't think bad of myself typically, unless it's like a really obvious blunder, but then it's like, oh, well, that was stupid. Um, and it's easy to correct. But for the bigger, deeper ones, um, I typically think like, wow, I must have missed something. And let me try and find out what I missed. And then I go into like problem solver or detective or investigator mode, and I really try to break it down, whatever it is. It could be, anything. So one of the first like stories that comes to mind is, and I think I've shared this before somewhere, like publicly, is when I first started doing triathlon, which was back in like 2001, 2002. I was bonking on a regular basis. So bonking, another word for bonking is hitting the wall. Another word for hitting the wall is low blood sugar or hypoglycemia. And I was like having low blood sugar, bonking issues, like almost every workout, like daily. And there's a very classic example of hitting the wall and persevering, is in an Ironman triathlon competition in Hawaii, the World Championship, where two women are severely bonking. Their blood sugar is completely wrecked, but they keep going and they literally crawl across the finish line. You can look it up on YouTube. You can see this video. It's actually, I even put that clip in one of my videos on YouTube about like blood sugar and bonking and stuff because it's so iconic. I think it was back in like 1986. And it's serious. Like when your blood sugar is low, like you can die, right? And I had to figure this out. This was like a daily mistake I was having. And when it really hit its peak, I was backpacking in New Hampshire with some friends, and we were backpacking the presidential range. So it was like a 3-night, 4-day backpacking trip. Or it was supposed to be 4 nights, I think. And I bonked each day in the afternoon. And on the 3rd day, it was like I just sat down in the middle of the trail and I'm like, I'm done. Like I had nothing left. And then I started having massive GI issues, like having to like big time bathroom issues in the middle of the wilderness and all. And so we were able to hike out that day and not stay that 4th night, I think it was. But I was fine as soon as I got some food. My blood sugar was back up, right? So why was this happening time after time? And I went to the doctors and I had stress tests and I had blood work and, you know, all this stuff. And everyone is like, oh no, you're so healthy. Like, yeah, you're a 32-year-old. I mean, you've got the body and health of a 22-year-old. Like you are so healthy, it's ridiculous. So they were of no help. And long story short, I went into all the deep investigation mode and figured out that my body did not know how to burn fat for fuel. It only knew how to burn sugar as fuel. So no matter what I did, it was only burning sugar, and your body only has like 2 hours worth of sugar in it at any given time. That's in your liver, your muscles, your bloodstream. At any given time, the best is about 2 hours. This is like rule of thumb. And when you burn through that, you're done, you know? And if your body doesn't know how to burn fat, then it's not going to tap into your fat for fuel and energy, and you tank. Well, this is what type 2 diabetes is all about, actually. It's that your cellular metabolism doesn't know how to use fat for fuel. And now I'm going to get into like, you know, teacher mode here. This isn't my stories, but this is my teacher mode. This is what I learned. And this is all in basic, like biology, organic chemistry, physiology. This is all in the books. We're trying to control our blood sugar and insulin through diet or fasting. Like eat low carb to force your body to burn fat for fuel because you're depriving it of carbs. And another way that we try and do this, very common these days, and this is 2026, is by fasting. So if you're not eating, then you have to use fat for fuel because there's nothing else in your body. So you're forcing your body. Well, I've seen a lot of people get into a lot of trouble, day-to-day life and in exercise, with this method. I'm not saying these methods are bad and don't work, but these are 2 ways, by your diet, low carb type stuff, or fasting, are ways to force your body to burn fat for fuel because you're depriving it of the carbohydrates. Another way to solve this problem, which is the way I went, because I have to keep eating. I'm doing these big exercise workouts and stuff, and I want to go backpacking. You can train your body rather than force it by depriving it. You can train your body by how you exercise. And if you exercise in a fully aerobic state, this is zone 2 aerobic base training exercise. If you're getting all the oxygen that you need while doing whatever it is you're doing, then your body will start to learn, oh, I can tap into my fat for fuel because oxygen's available. But if oxygen is not available, it's literally impossible to use fat for fuel when oxygen's not available. There is no chemical reaction that makes this work. So you can train your body, and it takes about 12 weeks of consistent, like 6-day-a-week training in a fully oxygenated state. This is what zone 2 heart rate training is all about, which is on all the machines at the gym, all the cardio machines. You train that way for 12 weeks straight, then it has nothing to do with your diet at all. And your body will learn, oh, I can tap into my fat for fuel, and I don't have to rely on sugar for fuel. And when you do that, then if you have to do like a quick sprint or high stress, when you will tap into sugar, it's available. And that's what it's for, is emergency. It's quick fuel. So that was a big mistake that I learned. I haven't bonked since like 2002 when I trained that way. So the doctors and everyone said you're perfectly healthy, but I was bonking regularly. So I went into research mode and figured it out. The same thing happened with injury prevention. I had Achilles tendonitis in both my legs, both my ankles, feet. And the doctors are like, oh, 8 weeks off, stop working out, start back slow, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm planning to do Ironman. The mistake was how I was dealing with day-to-day exercise and how I was dealing with recovery and injury prevention. And, right now, the whole approach is stretching and strength training. And there have been hundreds of studies on stretching to prevent injury, and none of them show that stretching prevents injury. And if stretching really prevented injury, then why do gymnasts and dancers and ice skaters have some of the highest rates of chronic injury? They're the most flexible people out there. So we still think stretching is going to prevent injury, and it doesn't. And all the studies show that it doesn't. And then we say, oh, it's strength training. Oh, you have a muscle imbalance. This is what all the doctors and the physical therapists, and again, I'm generalizing all, but again, I had to go into major problem solving mode with this big mistake of this Achilles tendonitis. And the doctor's like, don't do it, stop. And rest, ice, compression, elevation, RICE. People are still, doctors, trainers are still promoting that. And it was completely redacted in 2015 by the Dr. Gabe Merkin, who came up with the protocol in the 1970s. He redacted it in 2015 because there's no basis for this and it doesn't work. But this doctor and marathon runner came up with the protocol. People are still promoting it today. It doesn't work, and he redacted it, and they're still promoting it for injury prevention and injury recovery. But I found that the real root is actually knotted up muscle fibers. And massage therapists actually know this. But the muscle fibers end up pulling on, the muscles end up pulling on the tendon. That inflames, that's tendonitis. And then we keep exercising and doing to prove our value and worth in the world. So then we keep going, and then we start getting joint pain because of it. And then the joint starts breaking down, inflaming and breaking down. So that's arthritis, joint inflammation. And then the joint, we think it's the joint that's hurting. Well, the joint does hurt because the tendon's trying to pull out of the bone, and tendons insert into bone right around the joint. But it's really further up the chain of knotted muscle fibers. And that's actually, so I had to figure all of this out on my own because the doctors were all still sharing misinformation. They didn't know. So when I think of mistake, I think something's missing. And if I find a solution and it's not working, like stretching or eat more carbs, which I tried that route back in the early triathlon days, that didn't work. I go into major problem solving mode to figure out what's really going on, and then I solve it. And it's incredibly simple because you're addressing the actual problem. So with the bonking and hitting the wall, it's your cellular metabolism. And that's really the root of type 2 diabetes. And again, I'm not a doctor, but you don't need to be a doctor to read a chemistry book or a biology book and look at the Krebs cycle. Like we had that in biology class. Now I'm just applying it, and that's science. Um, so yeah, we keep following these myths, and when I find these myths aren't working, and they're not working not just for me but for other people, I want to solve it. So I go into problem solving mode, and then it feels really good when you identify the actual root problem. The solutions are usually really simple, and you implement them, and you're done, and you just move on to the next thing. So you can do this over and over and over again. Whatever mistakes or problems that we have in the world that keep occurring again and again and again, like alcohol abuse and drug addiction and depression and anxiety and eating disorders and bullying and narcissism and self-harm and gun violence. These have been occurring for tens, hundreds, thousands of years in human history. These are mistakes that we keep passing on. We cycle over and over. But when you look into it, there is a root cause to these problems. And when it comes to those behaviors, you still with me? Okay. Those behaviors are just the symptoms. And you talked about this in your share about what information is this misalignment trying to, communicate to me. And when it comes to behavior, what's really trying to be communicating is a deeper emotional pain. So the bonking and the tendonitis and joint pain is physical pain, but when it comes to behavior, it's the emotional pain, not feeling heard, not feeling understood, not feeling like you matter, not feeling valued. In short, it's not feeling loved. And when we don't feel loved, it hurts. And we turn to behavior to try and ease that pain, and it doesn't work. We just need to feel loved. So that's what comes up for me with making mistakes, is I want to try and figure it out, and identifying the true root cause I found to be the real key. And then the solutions are really simple, and it's so rewarding and satisfying to implement such simple solutions that actually work. So that's my share.
Nice share. Good job.
Thank you.
So, do you want me to share my thoughts about your share? Oh, I lost you, Kevin. I lost you.
Oh, that was the whole thing went
Okay.
blank for a second, but
Yeah.
I'll splice it.
Okay. All right. So, do you want me to share about your share? My thoughts? Ugh, I don't know if it's on my end or your end. You there?
Okay.
It must have been your end.
I think it was. Maybe my internet blanked out. That happens sometimes. Um,
Okay.
but it's still recording,
I know. Yeah, it is. It's still
so that's
recording.
good. And I
Sure.
can easily splice
Splice out. Okay.
all this kind of stuff. I'm gonna make you full screen. Hopefully we're back. I closed down like a bunch of stuff also.
Okay.
Again, it could be my computer, even though it could be my stuff too. Um, okay, so had a little technical difficulty, but we're back and I finished my share. So where would you like to go with this, if anywhere?
Yeah. So, well, I wrote down notes, and I think it sounds like for you, it's all about the root cause. If there's any mistake, and if there's anything in your life you consider a mistake, you want to look at the root cause. Like, why did I do that? What caused it? What caused the mistake? Because
Yeah.
you don't want to go through that again, because it doesn't it doesn't feel good, and it's not, it's not healthy on many levels.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. It's
Right.
painful. Another word for uncomfortable is discomfort, is pain. And I don't
Right.
I don't want any pain for me or for anyone else.
No. And in the story that you shared, coming from the medical perspective, um, and this is something that might be interesting for us to have kind of discovered today, and the people listening might see a similar connection. We're all connected, and we're all going through this thing called life together. So,
Mhm.
we experience similar things, just in our own way, because we're all human, and we're not alone in our journey through life.
Mhm.
What came to mind is, for both of us, which I'm sure people watching this will see the similarity in their mistake experiences. We're guided to be in our own space, to figure out what is it that's happening, so that it's a mistake, and what do we do to correct it. So you were looking at doctors for the answer, and they didn't give you a satisfactory solution.
Mhm.
So you went out on your own to figure it out. Hold on, sorry. My phone rang, it was in my ear. You were trying to figure it out on your own, because they weren't helping you. You were still in pain and discomfort,
Mhm.
and it didn't make sense to you that they were telling you you're fine, and you're like, no, I'm not fine. I'm not okay. And in my case, I'm in these groups of people where the connection with all of us was good, but the overall picture wasn't working, and so I had to step away to figure out on my own, what keeps drawing me to these types of experiences. So the common denominator in our conversations today, in our sharing, is that it's okay to like break away and figure things out on our own, and then bring it to uh, the greater uh, environment for the greater good.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking, you know, your knowledge was even helpful for me, because I'm looking at some health challenges myself that I'm trying to figure out on my own, along with a functional medicine doctor. But I now have my notebook, and I'm mapping everything out so I can have dots to connect, to make sense of why
Yeah.
am I still in the medical crisis that I have,
Mhm.
when I've been doing all of this. And of course, the females watching, they'll understand I'm going through menopause at the same time with an autoimmune issue, and it's like course collision.
Oh yeah.
So listening to what you said, it's like, oh, okay. So now I've got I've got additional information for me to add to what I'm trying to understand as to, what's going on with my medical system pattern. I
Yeah.
mean, not system, my medical
Your
challenge,
health. Mhm.
my health pattern.
Yeah.
So I think for me, what I'm picking up on this conversation is that we all have patterns. We have patterns in life. And when those patterns lead to discomfort, pain, you know,
Or
emotional
some undesirable outcome.
outcome, right? We, it's okay for us to go off on our own, individually, independently, to figure
Sometimes you
out.
have to do that. If you're
Yeah,
not finding the answers through the standard channels, then unless you're okay and unless you want to just accept that that's the way it is, like my dad does that, like his health challenges, well, the doctor said this, that's the end of it for him. I mean, I could solve his problem in 6 months, even though he's 89 years old. I can
right,
solve his 25-year long problem that he's dealt with. I think I can solve it in 6 months, but he won't listen to me. He only will listen to a doctor,
right,
and the
right.
doctor just wants to give him, more drugs, and it's barely keeping the symptoms at bay, but
Mm.
it doesn't apply just to health. Like I was thinking about, um, I was having a car problem a few years back, and I go start my car and it wouldn't start randomly. Like the whole thing is dead, and like the horn won't even honk. It's like it's completely. And then the next day, I'd recharge it, blah blah blah, and then the next day, it starts. And then 2 days later, it doesn't start. And then a day after that, after I recharge the battery and everything, jump it and recharge, then it starts. Like, what is going on? I go to two different auto mechanic shops, like very reputable, and they're like, everything checks out. We have no idea what's going on. Like, not. So I had to go through, and I went through with my little ohm meter, and I'm testing all the circuits and looking for, like, phantom bleeds of energy, and is there a light bulb disconnect? And my car's like 18 years old, so like stuff can happen. But what is going on? And then I really started, and this goes back with what you're dealing with. I really started documenting every behavior that I did when I'm driving, when I'm using the car. Here, I turned the radio on. I used the air conditioning. I used the windows. I turned the power windows. I turned it off. I drove it for this long. I started documenting everything. And then what happened the next time I tried, the next day when I tried to start it, and it turned out that the days it wouldn't start is because the day before I had used the air conditioner.
Huh. Interesting.
But the days that I didn't use the air conditioner,
It was fine.
it would start. It's like, what's good? Well, I look into that. It turned out that one of the relays in the engine, in the little electronic box, one of the relays was getting stuck in the on position when I would use the air conditioner. And even though I turned the car off, the relay was stuck on, which kept draining the battery.
Draining the battery. Wow. And you figured all that out.
So I could only order 3 relays. I couldn't get a single relay, but I ordered a pack of 3 relays from Amazon, got it the next day, cost $15 for 3 relays. I put the relay in, haven't had a problem since.
Good
It was a
job.
$5 solution because it was an 18-year-old relay that was
Right.
just getting stuck in the on position, and that's draining my battery.
Wow. Isn't that crazy?
Simple solution when you
Right.
trace it back. And the behaviors, I had to track all my behavior. Did I use the AC? Did I use the radio? Did I use my lights? Blah, 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 blah. And I kept a log of it all, and it popped out.
Right.
AC doesn't turn on the next day.
So I think the message here would be for the whole hour and
10
10 minutes that
minutes.
we've been talking, 11 minutes, um, is that when we can when we feel that we've made a mistake, we can trace, we can, document to see what caused it, what's the core, what's the reason, and then um, come up with the solution,
Well,
and
and
then
I keep questioning it until you get an answer that feels right.
yeah,
And by feel, I mean intuitively, like, okay, that makes sense. Still could be wrong, but oh, okay, I'm tracing back all these symptoms, behaviors or symptoms, but the car symptoms, right? The car wasn't working. Trace back these symptoms. Oh, they tend to point to something fairly obvious,
yes,
but not stopping before we get an acceptable solution. And that acceptable solution or reason is either, okay, that makes sense to me, that intuitively sounds right, and let me test it, or nope, it's still not solving the problem. I'm still getting it. I remove that root cause, and I'm still getting the problem. Like my dad with the doctor, he said do this, but I still get the problem. You haven't solved the problem, so you
right,
have to dig deeper. If we think that addiction is a disease, well, solve that disease.
right.
Well, we've solved the disease and the problem keeps happening.
Still
But that's not
exists.
the root problem.
Right,
Oh, it's genetic. We've accounted for genes. It's still happening. That's not the root problem. We got to keep digging. And we stop because we heard an answer, but we still have the problem.
right. Well, in the case of my store experience, I can trace back all the different points, all the different things that were going on prior to signing the dotted line to
Be in
move
business.
the project forward, be in business. Um, what I missed out on connecting those dots was not seeing the importance of the support system that surrounded the experience. It was not supported emotionally,
Around
and
that project.
right, right,
So
and
there's one of your symptoms. You
yes,
recognize a symptom is not a supportive group environment.
no, and I had some support, and then other support had a negative twist, and then she did not have support at all. In fact, very negative things were said to us as females going into business. And so I learned that I will never, ever, ever, since that experience, go into anything if I don't have support that is encouraging, uplifting, feels good,
Yeah.
that supports on that emotional level, but also on the business level, where the foundation of what is built upon, and it can go for what you talked about too. The foundation of what it's built upon has to be strong,
It has to
has
be strong.
has to be interwoven with the things that's going to support life, support the project, support the event, support. You didn't have the support from the doctors. The doctors were like, you're fine. But they didn't say, well, let's dig a little deeper. Let's work together to see what could be causing it.
No.
And it's almost like,
Doctors, physical therapists,
yeah,
chiropractors,
yeah.
no.
And so, uh,
Dietitians, nutrition, no.
yeah. And a lot of what I do in my current practices, both personal and business, is, well, what's behind it? What's behind it? What's
The root
behind
cause. What's
the
behind it?
root cause, right? And that's kind of a basis for success in everything I do, because otherwise the challenges, the mistakes are going to be made, the challenges are going to be there.
Yeah.
There's going to be what I call hiccups, there's going to be misalignment. And who wants that? I mean, that's
Well,
not
it's
living
so
life.
uncomfortable. It's
It
painful.
is.
It's
It is.
painful. But
Mm,
what you were just saying, or whatever, what you were just saying about not going into a project with the support system, we're talking about emotional support. And really it ties back to the introduction that I did for the whole podcast and episode, which is what Uchi is founded on and based on, is everything feels possible when you know someone has your back every day. And if
yes.
you don't feel that going into this project that you were talking about, which you didn't, it's not really going to be possible.
No, and you have the same thing going into the doctors looking for a solution to your
Hmm.
problem, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with you. You don't have a problem. It's all in your
Yeah.
head." Not that they said that, but
Right. They didn't say
a
it's
lot of
not. Yeah. They
yeah,
didn't
I
say
mean,
that.
we get
But
that a
they heard you're
lot.
fine.
A lot of people get that, and you're thinking
According
to
to
yourself,
everything that they know,
right, right,
then
but
I'm
you're
fine.
thinking to yourself, "I'm not freaking fine."
Right. Well, that happens all the time. People go to the doctor all the time,
Yeah.
and so often the doctors end up convincing the patient that nope, you're wrong. Your pain's not real. Your pain's not as bad as you think it is. You're not as messed up as you think you are. And they accept it and like, oh, that's my lot in life. I'm just gonna have to be this way forever. That's what my dad does. I'm just gonna have to
Mhm.
be this way forever. And I'm like, that does not work for me. I'm gonna
Yeah,
figure this stuff out or die
yeah.
trying.
Yeah, but I love your way of saying, well, let me become the detective and let me look at all the crevices and the corners and like me, connect the dots and track
Yeah.
it. Because otherwise, we're going to have the same repeated pattern in
Oh
different
my
ways
God.
at
And
different
it's so
extremes.
annoying and it's so frustrating and it happens over and over and over again.
I
And that's
know.
what I've been going through for years, really, since you know me, is my own personal growth is what is contributing to these patterns that I'm having, again and again in my life, because my life's not perfect. There's definitely things that are not working in my life. I mean, the physical stuff is so easy to figure out, honestly. But
Right.
the I feel like, but the emotional stuff, the behavior, like okay, I see the bad behavior, bad, it's not bad, the destructive behavior, the behavior that's not working for us. Where is that coming from?
Right.
And so much of it is subconscious. We're not like, I don't even know where I got that belief
And see, that's
system.
where I can help you, and then you can help me with the medical stuff. So we need to talk again.
I'm always happy to help. Yeah. So, but just keep digging and keep asking why. Keep
Exactly.
questioning it, right? I mean, that's really how this podcast got started.
Question it. Yep.
It's in the original version. Keep questioning it until you get a solution or a satisfactory outcome, an outcome that works for you. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's like, I am not a perfectionist by any stretch of the imagination, but keep questioning it until you get to where you want to be.
Couldn't
And
say it any better. Absolutely.
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I guess on that note, then we will conclude this episode. If you want to be a guest on Question It and dig into some random question about life and how you see the world and see how I see the world on that same topic, the Google form is in the show notes. Feel free to reach out. Until next time, thanks, Eileen, and peace, love, and connect.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. I enjoyed this. I appreciate it.